let me orient you just a little bit, and just give you. This will be from one angle. We're going to get a chance tomorrow to be at a place where there's a model you can see of the whole city. That's a very good sized model. That's from I think about 60s, about 30 years after Jesus. But this is good to see it this way. We are at the top of the Mount of Olives. We know. Well, what are some things? What are some things we know about the Mount of Olives? What are some things, biblical things we know about the Mount of Olives?
Transfiguration.
Transfiguration? No, that was not. That's up. Right. Transfiguration is up there. Yep. What else? Do you know? There's not a lot of things. Mount of Olives is very important, but there's not a lot. I'm not on.
Yeah, you're on.
I am. Okay.
Is this where Jesus wept over Jerusalem?
Yes. Yep. When he's coming into yes, he wept over Jerusalem. What else?
Acts chapter 1.
Acts chapter 1.
That's actually.
Oh, the Ascension. Yes, Ascension was here. Yep. Anything else come to mind? What's that? Yeah, there's massively filled with olive trees. You bet.
Yeah, that's a church.
Okay. Yes. Exactly right. We're gonna be down at a place that represents that. Zechariah talks about the Mount of Olives. Yeah, I read to you how he'll feet will hit the Mount of Olives, and the Mount of Olives will split and separate north and south. There'll be a valley between them. The other Old Testament, there's a story of David going over as he left. So as Absalom was taking over, he was coming in to take over the palace. King David left the palace and goes over the Mount of Olives and weeps as he goes, and that's where someone kind of reprimands him, and they want to stop him, and David says, no, maybe it's from the Lord. He weeps as he goes away looking at the city. And then of course, there's I don't know. I think I read last.
You're kind of off now.
I don't know what to do about it. Okay. I'm sorry.
Solid.
You're hearing it solid?
Yeah.
Yeah. So some are hearing it solid. So sorry. Sorry
Push
about
your
that.
thing in, maybe.
It's in. Oh, them push it in.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. There's over 150,000 graves that are here, and from the first temple period. First temple period means before that was back in the day. Solomon is the one who built the temple. Second temple was rebuilt in the 580s BC. So there's graves here that are 3,000 years old. It's unbelievable. Okay, so why would Jews want to be buried here? Jews. Why would Jews want to be buried here, though? Not Christian Jews. Jews.
When the Messiah comes.
Yeah, when the Messiah comes, or near the temple. The temple, of course, the temple was here when they were being buried here. But even now, they'd want to be buried here because they're going to have the temple one day. They're convinced of it. The Messiah will come. They'll win the temple. Why would a Muslim want to be buried here?
Muhammad returns.
Muhammad left from here. This is the third most sacred site. Mecca, Medina, Jerusalem. Third most sacred site to Muslims. So those are Muslim graves that you see on some of those on the other side. That's next to the temple, next to the wall. And then why would a Christian want to be here? Jesus is coming back. Yeah. Dead in Christ will rise first. They'd be the first of all, I suppose. So you see the wall. Again, that is the Ottoman wall, 1500s or so, and it's about a kilometer square of the old city. You can see this is the southeast corner of the Temple Mount. Some would suggest that this is probably the corner because it's the one that has the furthest drop. That when Satan said, "Throw yourself down," that it would be in that corner, perhaps. Also, if you follow it all the way up. You can see behind those trees is where the northeast corner of it is. And then it goes that way. We'll end up at a gate tonight that's on the north side, kind of the northwest corner. And it comes around. But what you see at the top is a 37-acre plot that I call the Temple Mount. That's where the Dome of the Rock is. I call it the Temple Mount because I don't want to call it the temple. The temple's not there. But it's the it's the platform. It's when Herod the Great built it, it was the largest. We talked about this in Caesarea, the largest man-made platform in the world when he built that, and 37 acres. So the temple area was a lot smaller when the temple was rebuilt, and Herod the Great just made it much larger. And so certainly that the wall is, although it's not original, that Temple Mount area is still part of the border of where the wall was, and pieces of the wall. You know, they'd knock the wall down, they would reuse some pieces. And we'll be able to identify tonight I'll show you how to recognize one of the blocks that Herod the Great commissioned to be built. He had them designed a very specific way that you can spot them today. Between us and the Temple Mount is the Kidron Valley. Maybe you've heard of the Kidron Valley. It talks about Jesus would cross the Kidron Valley and go up to the Mount of Olives. Likely was much lower before. It's been filled in over the centuries and millennia. But it's still, depending on the angle you look at it from, down the, you may not be able to see it from here, but when David first took over the city, it was called it's still called the City of David. That is not Old City Jerusalem. That slowly expanded over time. The City of David, when it was David and Solomon, it's the lower part of the hill. So the Temple Mount was, where the temple is now, was outside of the City of David, the original Jerusalem during David's time. It was down, there's a hill. And we'll get a good look at that at the next couple of days. Let me see what else we think.
Does the southern steps, David, need explanation?
Yeah, you see on the southern end of the temple, you see some excavations. We'll go there and look at those pretty closely in the next couple of days. But that would be the entrance that Jesus likely would have regularly taken into the temple. What you see there, where the wall cuts in, would have gone up there into the temple. We'll talk about that. It's interesting, the Dome of the Rock, made in the 600s, it's the Al-aqsa Mosque is what you read a lot about. It's one of their most holy mosques, and actually, when there were issues a year ago, not quite a year ago, and there's often issues between Jews and Muslims. The Temple Mount is Jewish people. There's Jewish officers up there, but religious Jews are not supposed to go up there because they don't want to step. They usually stay on the outside because they don't want to step onto where the Holy of Holies was, because they don't know exactly where it was. And when Jews go up there, the Israeli police follow them around. There's not allowed to be any worship up there. We will not be reading from the Bible when we're up on the Temple Mount. Jews are not allowed to pray up on the Temple Mount. It's part of the agreement that happened, after the 47 War. That's just a fascinating story. But the Al-aqsa Mosque is often where, when that happened a little over a year ago, as where they were storing stones that they were throwing down. Because on the other side, this is the eastern wall, on the other side is the western wall, which is the place the Jews pray. When we go over there, there'll be Jews that'll be praying. By tonight, there probably won't be Jews praying because it's Shabbat, so they'll be at home. But they'll begin to throw stones down, and it ends up being just a terribly ugly situation. On this side, we're on the eastern side. You can see the eastern gate that's blocked up. You see it if you just follow the wall along until it juts up about 8 or 10 feet. You see a double gate there, double arch. That's the eastern gate. Again, that's not the eastern gate of the first century. It was a couple decades ago. There's another gate right below it that was discovered. But the Bible talks about how he'll come down here at the Mount of Olives, and then he'll likely go into the eastern gate. So Jesus' return will be there. There's a Church of Ascension over here. It is once a year it's a church. Every other 364 days it's a mosque for Muslims. There's this agreement. But anyway, our family went to see it, and again, my kids were 12, 10, and 8. And I was explaining how we don't know where Jesus ascended, but some would say it was here. And we're walking. It's very small. It's the size of it would probably be about. You see the semicircle, that back wall. You just continue it. That might be the size of it straight up. It's a small little room. and we're in there with a couple of Muslims, and I'm just kind of walking the girls through it quietly, and all of a sudden my 8-year-old, always Emily, in a loud voice says, "Dad, when Jesus comes, he's going to knock this building down." So let's head on out. I said that way.